Now, constructor is really nothing more than a special method that's called whenever you create a new instance of a class. The constructors are really easy to identify within the structure of a class because the name of the constructor will always be the same as the name of the class. They're identical. The constructor also has the ability to accept parameters if you wish. So you can feed data into the class when the class is instantiated. If you don't define a constructor of your own, the compiler will create one for you. Now, that's kind of interesting because up to this point you probably noticed that we have not been defining constructors in any of our classes. That doesn't mean that the constructors don't exist in our classes. We've just been depending on the compiler to do the creation of the constructor for us. Now, if you don't create a constructor and the compiler is allowed to create one for you, you will get what's called a default or zero parameter constructor. It's a constructor that does not accept any parameters, and it actually really doesn't do anything at all. However, it's there. That's the point. It provides a structure that you can use to create instances of your objects. Now, the real purpose for constructors is to give us the ability to feed values into the class upon instantiation through parameters, or within the constructor do other special work and operations. One of the nice things about constructors is that they can be overloaded. Overloading a constructor, of course, means that you have different versions and that differ in terms of the type and number of parameters that they accept. So if the constructor is overloaded, that means you have different options on how you're going to be creating and instantiating those classes. Now, if the values that you're trying to set within the constructor are essentially constant, then you may want to consider just using an initializer instead. Instead of, for example, capturing a value which is going to be the same all the time and assigning it to a variable, you can simply initialize the variable, as in this example, int myval equals 5. You can do that initialization at the point that the class is defined, rather than having to do that within the structure of the constructor itself.